Hello guys and welcome back. When it comes to mid-range GPUs, the RX 570 is certainly no stranger in this category. AMD labelled this card as maximum 1080p gaming. Armed with cool features, it promised far superior gaming experience than any of its predecessors. So today, we are going to find out just how capable of delivering a smooth gameplay in modern games at 1080p it really is. The RX 500 series is based on the Polaris 20 GPU, which is manufactured using a 40nm process technology and was released in April 2017. The range kicks off with the low-end RX 550 and goes all the way up to RX 580. It's worth mentioning that the RX 590 came out a year and a half later, and apart from higher clock speeds, it shared the spec with the RX 580. All cards in the RX 500 series support AMD's FreeSync technology and also support DirectX 12 and Vulkan APIs, which should allow for better performance and efficiency in some modern games. Priced at $169, the RX 570 is a slightly scaled down version of the RX 580, with 2048 stream processors, 128 texture units and 32 ROPs. It has a base clock speed of 1168 MHz and a boost clock of 1244, with either 4 or 8 GB of GDDR5 memory, which is running at 7 GHz. My GPU is Power Color's Red Devil with 4 GB of memory. Apart from looking mean, it also packs a nice factory overclock to over 1300 MHz. Card is equipped with 375mm fan cooler and follows the well-established black and red shroud design. Red Devil is 2 slots wide and requires a single 8-pin power cable. Card offers 3 full-size display ports, an HDMI and a DVI port. A decent selection if I do say so myself. Full metal backplate is nice to see and actually surprised me considering this GPU only weighs 862 grams. Card is nice and easy to open as there are only 6 screws to remove. The PCB seemed very clean and might suggest that this GPU had an easy previous life. Cooler features 4 big heat pipes and thermal pads for all memory modules and power inductors. Let's pop it on a scale where I measured just over 500 grams. Let me now apply a fresh MX4 and assemble the card so that we can start with the benchmarks. Factory fan profile allows Red Devil to run a touch hotter for my liking in order to keep the noise levels down. I've measured around 57 dB and card peaked at 82C in games. First off, let's run a couple of synthetic benchmarks. 3D Mark's time spy score of 4321 is okay, I guess. We definitely need to test more cards. Firestrike Extreme score is slightly higher at 5667. Heaven benchmark, and this time using ultra quality and extreme tessellation, scored the RX 570 with 1862 points. I will be using this result to compare all future cards for power and cost ratios. The RX 570 scored 14.9 points for every watt it used. RTX 3080 is slightly better at 20 points. The MSRP to score ratio puts the 570 slightly ahead, and I'm aware this is not a really fair comparison since I personally don't know anyone who bought a new 3080 under 700 USD. A second-hand value comparison graph is coming in the next video. Gaming benchmarks start with a new addition, God of War. Card is pulling around 135 watts on average and boosts nicely to 1320 MHz most of the time. This 2018's title has some impressive graphics, but was not running very well before completely turning off blur from the settings. I recommend using the original graphics preset and FSR on quality setting, as the game was then very playable and I didn't notice any stutters. RX 570 pushed smooth 64 FPS on average with 1% lows at 54. Up next, it's Need for Speed Heat. Side note, I never realized what a pain in the underside this game can be when used with a 360 controller. Using it simply disabled any keyboard input, and it took me a moment to understand why was the Afterburner not logging any data. Anyways, With high settings dialed in, ISO 60 FPS average. Perfect. Wolfenstein, the new Colossus, follows the story of BJ Blazkowicz and offers hours of action-packed story. This game is well optimized and runs great on the RX 570. I used high preset and so just over 80 FPS on average, utilizing the Vulkan API of course. Are you a fan of Wolfenstein games? Which is your favorite in the series? 2019's open world Days Gone is next. My bike always seemed to be low on fuel, but the RX 570 handled high preset with ease and managed to push nearly 70 FPS on average, which was a nice surprise. For some reason, I remember this game being more demanding. So far, the 570 puts on impressive show. I'll happily admit, I'm new to Battlefield 5 and its multiplayer. It still feels like chaos and I die a lot, but I'm really enjoying myself. With a high preset, Red Devil pushed 85 FPS on average, which fits nicely with this crazy fast-paced action. Bring it on. 2016 Doom was next. Still as fast as the previous game, but a bit more dark and stuffed with gory kills. The RX 570 really flexed here, and even with Ultra, it managed 100 FPS on average. Game was really enjoyable to play and I didn't experience any stutters at all. Another new addition to game testing is Mass Effect Andromeda. I'm only a few hours in, but really enjoying the stunning visuals and first-class audio effects. Does anyone remember those funny videos about the way the game engine handled facial expressions? I don't. With the high preset, RX 570 pushed 72 FPS on average, with 1% low sitting at 56. Smooth. And the last game I've tested today was MAFIA Definitive Edition. I've used a medium preset which fits the RX 570 nicely, and I saw 56 FPS on average with 1% lows at 44. I know it's not quite 60, but I must say it was still a very enjoyable experience. Here we go. This quick look at the RX 570 revealed that mid-range Polaris cards still have something to offer even in 2023. The 4GB models start around £60 or about $75, but the extra VRAM of the 8GB model is worth paying extra for. There are plenty of cards to choose from, but one needs to remember both RX 570s and 580s were widely and commonly used for Ethereum mining. I appreciate the relatively low power consumption and support for FSR, which does a great job in modern titles. I was positively surprised by the performance this card offered, and if all you want is 60 FPS at modest settings in plenty of games, the RX 570 should be strongly considered. Alternatively, Nvidia offers a similarly priced 3GB model of the GTX 1060, or there's the 1050 Ti, which does come with 4GB of memory but is considerably slower. Have you ever owned a 500 series card? What do you think of the 570? Let me know in the comments down below, and as ever, thank you very much for watching and I hope to see you all in the next one.